Welcome aboard. It's staging area for the Monster Energy stage here. Lucas Oil Pro Motocross. We're at Washougal. Jason Wygant and Jason Thomas with Stage 6. And we'll be joined by some awesome local guests. Ryan Villopoto, Levi Kitchen, and a bunch of others will be joining us. Welcome to Washougal. JT, beautiful place to come and watch a race. We've even got great weather. Should be a fun weekend.
It's about as good as you could ask for. If you've never been to Washougal before, I would highly recommend it. It's it's easily the most picturesque track we have on the calendar. For the riders, it's a little bit of a different challenge. I think if you kind of pan the paddock, you'd get a lot of different answers about Washougal. But for everybody else that's here, if you're listening at home or whatever, if you've never come here, if you're here already, you're in for a great weekend.
Okay, I understand the complaints on the slipperiness of the track. I have a new theory that I want to
this should
unveil
be good.
Here.
This should be good.
And you can tell me if I'm right or wrong.
Can I answer before?
I'm sure the answer is. You know what? Yeah, because you raced, so you're not going to agree with me on this. The track is slick. It's okay to have challenges. It's okay for things to be difficult sometimes. It's okay for things to not be ideal. Yep. That's part of the challenge.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
Listen, this series spans the entire, North America. Well, say North America. The entire continental 48, right?
All right.
I think a championship of this caliber should have a little bit of everything. It shouldn't be all the same texture. It shouldn't be all look the same, feel the same. So I'm totally okay with it. Now, does that mean that you have to absolutely love how the racetrack feels and some of that dynamic? No. But that's normal. You're not supposed to like everything. Like everybody's tastes are a little bit different. I'm sure there are people that love this racetrack and love the way that the slipperiness takes a different technique and you have to use a lot more finesse in your riding. So I don't want it to sound like a negative. I just think it's a mixed bag, right? You would think everybody loves Washougal. How could you not love it here? But I think just as far as how you attack this track, it's a little tricky.
It's definitely different than the other races we've had, especially the recent ones on the calendar coming out of Redbud, Southwick, and Spring Creek. All right, let's get a guest on here. Folks at Millville, they were pumped up. We got some local products there. We had the Martin Brothers. We're going to bring a local product out here. Let's bring our first guest up, none other than the Ryan Villopoto is with us. Let's hear it for RV.
You have a sweatshirt on?
And as usual, we had no fans over here at all. And then Ryan Villopoto comes to the stage, and we've actually get somewhat of a crowd built up. This is not the first time I've experienced this in my life.
In my life? Yeah, I'm live.
Yeah, you're on, dude. You're on.
Well, that's what I do. I bring in the people.
Dude, Motocross the Nations at Redbud years ago. Pit bike race ended. I looked out in the crowd. It looked like we had 100,000 people. Then I took a brief break. I came back on stage, and the crowd was gone. And I said to the security, how did you get all these people out of here? They're like, the guy in the blue shirt left, and they all left. So congrats.
Well, thank
Packing
you.
them in.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's good to be back up here at Washougal.
Yeah, we were just talking about the challenge of this track, and it's challenging in a different way than most of the others. Is that good or bad? And how did it work for you?
No, it's good. It's this track is it's technical. We have a lot of shadows that come into play. Horsepower hill. So it was always a really awesome place for me to come back home and race in front of everybody that watched me grow up and race. But it was probably one of my least favorite tracks. I think I have not very many wins here. If I think just one. So, but yeah, it's a technical place to come and ride.
Not as many wins. You would think you would come here and just dominate. This is actually one of your weaker tracks if you look at the record.
I would say so, yes. Yeah. I mean, we were just looking at some stats, so
I know.
It wasn't very good.
Well, we know who the master of this track is, JT, and you've got the data to back it up, and he is back this year. This was actually a really good track for Ryan Dungey.
Well, and that's something we kind of talked about midweek was, the hype last week around Spring Creek was Ryan Dungey, the podium is coming. You could feel it building, he's getting a little better, and it's like, okay, this is the crescendo. It's all going to happen here, and then he tips over, and the suspense is ruined. But if you're a historian and you really look at the stats, this is the track where it would be most likely. It really doesn't make a lot of sense, but going back to when, the two Ryans were dominating the sport, they flip-flopped Spring Creek and Washougal all the time, and I think it was more about their riding styles and what they were a little bit better at than the other. But this track for Ryan Dungey, his historical average finish over his entire career is 1.2 overall. That's legendary. That's
ridiculous.
I mean, I'm sure Ricky Carmichael has something like that because he has every record ever.
Yeah.
But that's really something that you could sink your teeth into. If you're looking for a reason why Dungey's going to do well this weekend, you don't need to look further than that.
1.2 average moto finish for Dunge. That is insane.
I think it's overall.
I think that's still really good. But it's not. It's shocking because it's your region, where you're from. But you both talked about it. If you look at the way Dunn sets up his bike and the way he rides, it actually does make some sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think a little bit of it comes down to just the way Dunn rides a motorcycle, but also a bit of bike setup. You know, he tended to his bikes tend to be a little more free, a little taller, get a little better traction. I set mine up. I was a little bit shorter. I wanted it to be really stable. So there is some things that come into play with that. But nonetheless, we have to ride the motorcycle, and we're going to give. They're going to give them hell every time they get on them.
Yeah, that'll make it exciting this weekend because Dungey's back. You were talking about Dungey's corner technique, roll speed, easy on the gas, easy on the brakes, all that.
Yeah, he just his mid corner speed is phenomenal. Always has been, and he's not really using the throttle. He's not picking up the throttle to accomplish that. Just like you said, he's kind of staying off the brakes and allowing the bike to use its natural momentum through the corner, which for a track like this is perfect because you're not breaking traction, where RV, to his credit, could ride most tracks better than anyone else because he was so aggressive on the throttle. Almost a little bit Tomac. Their styles were different, but the approach was the same as kind of Tomac, where you're just so aggressive and you're beating the track into submission. This track doesn't want to be beaten in submission. You almost have to work with the track instead of trying to take too much away from it.
Okay, we'll talk about Dungey's chances this year in a minute, but we've got to start this talking about the battle at the top. You got Eli Tomac and Chase Sexton. Tomac has won 7 motos in a row, and his reward for that is a points lead that's about this big. So what have you been watching from the sidelines, seeing Sexton and Tomac battle it out, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Eli started off a little bit slow, been consistent, but didn't get those race wins right away.
Yep.
They came a little bit later in the season than he was hoping for, or that we all thought for. But yeah, I think that, Chase is missing a couple pieces of the puzzle. And right now with Eli having that points lead and with 7 moto wins in a row, somebody's got to stop him here soon, or there's no stopping the train. It's leaving the station.
And the big advantage that Tomac has, for starters, is experience. He's going for this title for the 4th time. Sexton has never won a national title. Do you think if you were taking on a young guy, and you had that, maybe would say Roxon was coming up, or even Eli himself, do you feel like that alone is an edge? Just something you sensed when you were the experienced guy?
No, for sure. I think that Eli's in the driver's seat right now. I think Chase being not in this position, we've seen it time and time again during Supercross and outdoors now, where just these little mistakes have either put him on the ground or cost him a win or the podium, and all those little things added up at the end of the season will make or break that championship. So Chase is right there. He's right there, but he's got to do a little more work.
And even though Tomac is a guy that hangs on that throttle cable and really is aggressive, he's had a pretty good record. He's been pretty fast at this track, and he'll probably get some support. I feel like everywhere we go now, the people love Eli Tomac. You guys Eli Tomac fans out here? It's pretty crazy how it's turned. Like, this year, his results and also his attitude of the track and the attitude of the fans toward him.
Yeah, I think with moving manufacturers, lit a fire underneath of him. I'm sure he gained more fans that way. Maybe Yamaha, believers and lovers of Yamaha, and along with his bringing all of his old fans with him. So, I think Eli's in a really good place right now. Being at the switch, I think the switch was really good for him. I think it was a smart move on his part.
Yeah, JT, you're down to the podium every week now for TV. The fans, it's like a love affair, no matter what state, not just the Colorado race, everywhere right now.
Yeah, and I think they're responding to him coming out of his shell a little bit.
Yep.
And, with RV here, RV was much more charismatic and larger than life than he really portrayed when he was racing. Like, he didn't really show that a lot but if you knew him or after his career, now you get that a lot, right? I think this is the first year for Eli where he's kind of, hey, I have to make it. enjoy some of this while it's happening, other than just dealing with the pressure and constantly feeling the pressure like I have to win.
Oh, no, totally. I think being that he's 29, I think, so he's getting a little bit older. So I think obviously you know as you get older, you start to look at things differently. And I think that's really helped him. You know, I think and like I said, moving manufacturers. He's got a lot of things going for him right now that in a good way.
You've theorized a couple times here the change of scenery, so to speak. We saw you winning races but not happy. The change of scenery. Eli could have been done 2 years ago, just like you were. He could have retired in 2020, won the Supercross title, and said, I finally didn't, walked away. He rode that out, had the change of scenery. Do you think what if for yourself a little bit now sometimes? I've heard you talk about this.
I mean, there's always what ifs.
Yeah.
I mean, life is what ifs. If it could
Yep.
change a lot. So, no, I think if I could change something in my career, I would have switched manufacturers to get a new color, a new team behind me. The team's got to learn me. I have to learn the team. There's very common ground in between where when at Kawasaki I came up and I was at Pro Circuit for and even before Team Green, then Pro Circuit. So all these guys knew me. Yeah. And they, you know, even though some of us were maybe close in age, but it was very I was the child in the relationship.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
No, it does. Yeah, because eventually you get to the point where, I mean, when Eli goes over to Star, they're like, we're getting Eli Tomac. We'll give you whatever you want. You're the big dog. That's got to, JT, it's got to change the dynamic when the team is like, we're lucky to have you. We'll give you anything you want.
Well, and I think they, you know, I would assume that the powers that be at Kawasaki looked at you still like you were this younger rider because they had been around you since then, right? It's like how a parent looks at their child. They always sees them as a child.
Yes.
That's just how it works. Where, you know, like you said, when Eli moves over, they're getting this 3-time national champion, 1-time Supercross champion, like, well, whatever it takes. Like, he is he's the man in this sport. And so I would agree with that. There's a different level of, hey, when I tell you I need something, they just do it. They don't question it. Where I would bet with Ryan, it was more of, well, I don't know, maybe there's going to be these other things that you're not thinking about. He's like, no, I'm a 9-time champ. I know all the things that are going to happen. You know,
that's right. But on the flip side, so you're last year winning the Supercross title. Roxon and Tomac had moved into the class. That's kind of somewhat the position Sexton's in right now as a young guy. Having youth, having that freshness, I'm sure has its upside as well. He's got some advantages with that.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think Chase is in a really good spot right now. You got to remember, Chase is only, I think, 22, right?
Yeah,
21,
23,
20.
I think.
Yeah. So pretty young. He's done phenomenal coming into the 450 class at such a young age. I had a couple, I had 2 years that I just floundered in the 450 class before I actually got up on my feet. Some of it was injury, some of it was just being purely out of shape. Having mistakes, big issues. Really looking at when he moved up to the 450 class, his age, what he's done, it's happened pretty fast for him, and I think he's doing a really good job at managing that.
Yep.
And like I said, he's only missing a couple pieces of the puzzle because he's got the speed, he's got the fitness, he's almost there.
It's tough, though. JT, I think you said in our podcast this week, what Sexton's trying to do is, it's supposed to be hard. You're trying to knock off a top-level, peak, prime, still really good Eli Tomac for a title.
He's the incumbent guy in his best form maybe ever.
Yes.
And
good luck.
If you take out either one of those two in this class, it's a runaway with one guy, and they're the entire story, right? If Sexton doesn't come of age in front of our eyes, it's another Tomac runaway. He's destroying everyone. And if Tomac is maybe even on his 2022 or 2021 or even 2020 outdoor form, Chase Sexton has a huge lead. So really, both of them in the moment right now are creating this series because we don't get these championship battles that often, right? And Tomac's getting all the headlines, and he should. 7 Moto wins, 4 overalls in a row. Like, he deserves every headline that he's getting. He won an ESPY, for crying out loud. So, but if you look at it, Sexton, to be 5 points down in the face of that is incredible. Like, that really shows how consistent he's been, and that hasn't been Chase Sexton.
No.
Let's go back 2 months ago. We were talking about Chase Sexton was a guy that was always throwing it away, always making the key mistake, always opening the door to everyone else. That hasn't, even with the little mistakes, Thunder Valley, he crashed last week, still, I really think we're seeing him mature this summer. Like, it's happening right in front of us, and whether or not he gets his title done, when we go into next year and we start the series over for Supercross in January, he has to be in the conversation now. Has to be.
Well, he's taken all these lessons, right? Like every week he's learning it. And he crashed to the Thunder Valley, and he's like, that won't happen again. And then everybody's ready. The next time you do that, we're going to bring that clip back up. We're going to rub it in. You said you wouldn't do it again. But, dude, he's trying to hold off Eli Tomac to win motos. Mistakes are going to happen.
He was furious on the podium last week, right? And you get this little snapshot, just a glimpse, 20 seconds of them on the podium, and they're trying to really compose themselves and hold it together in that interview. I'm telling you, when he came into the tent, he's waiting around, right? And there's a lot of holding pattern before they come up and talk. He was pissed. I mean, he was really angry because he knew it was Thunder Valley again. He just destroyed his back, like all scraped up, right? And he lost a point, so it's a point swing. You are riding so well. Just take a deep breath. You're going to... now, but I think he knows he's on the
We're hoping to have another awesome battle between them. Maybe some other guys will get in it. The other thing, and I don't know how much was seen on TV, but you were down there, and I could see even when we were at break. Okay, dude, the end of these battles, like even Eli looked pretty darn smoked. You go 35 minutes to the wall. I know you guys are not trying to show that, but it takes a lot out of these dudes when they're battling like that.
It always does. It always does. Luckily, we're going to have some pretty cool weather compared to what some of these guys have to deal with in, back east and things like that, where it's 100 degrees, and I think it's going to be around 80 tomorrow. So,
nice.
I think tomorrow we're going to have. I go back to Dungey. If Dungey's biggest chance to podium is here.
Okay.
I think if we're going to see a podium, it's probably going to happen here.
Yep.
But also remember Chase's first 450 win was here, I believe.
Yep.
So
he won last year.
Chase has a lot of things going for him here at Washougal.
Yep.
And then you can't take anything away from Eli. He's won here a lot too.
He has.
So we should have a really good race on our hands tomorrow.
Okay, now back to the Dungey thing. When you heard the news, and I don't know if you had insider news or if you found out like everybody else at the last second, when you heard the news that your old rival, and I mean old now, like you've raced him a long time ago.
Well, hold on. Were you? We found out this summer that Ken Roxon and Ryan Dungey were having like these pillow talk conversations at
like
night.
daily.
Were you in on this? Was this like
I was not in on this. I was the odd duck.
No? Okay. Because that was shocking to me. I had no idea that
they'd become besties.
Yeah, they're just talking at night on the phone.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had no idea.
Sorry about that. Sorry
I was left out in the dark.
They did not add FaceTime RV. So this hit you by surprise. What was your reaction when you heard Ryan Dungey's coming back?
Definitely surprised, but prior to Kenny and Dungey having those combos, I'd say 2-3 years ago, me and Dungey had those.
Okay.
So
all right.
this has come full circle multiple times.
Are you a little jealous that he's moved on to Kenny?
No, I'm not jealous at all.
Right.
Maybe I will say when the gate dropped at Paula, and then you see Dungey running in third, and then also and then he ends up third, fourth, fifth, whatever it was. A phenomenal ride.
Yeah.
Right out of the round one.
Yeah.
About 3 laps into it, I was like, man. Shit, if he's still doing it, I could be
there it is.
I could be out there wheeling over backwards right now.
And then, 15 minutes in, and then you look down, it's 30 minutes. And, I'm good. I'm good right here watching.
He's keeping it contemporary.
Yeah,
that could be me. That could be me. Yeah.
Could be.
Yes.
It won't be.
But I have a question related to that. So both of you guys stopped when I think both of you may have been 27-ish,
yes.
Right? Carmichael also 27 when he stopped. Was there – and I was fortunate enough to be around a little bit, so I know the pressure you guys were under at the time. Both of you, Ricky at the same too, was like you either win or it's failure, period. Like there was no – it was purely pass-fail. A year after that, 6 months after that, was there a time when you're like, man, I don't know if this was the right call to be done this early?
No, I think I honestly, the first 2 years was with no schedule and no training and nobody to really answer to was really nice.
Okay.
Then, year 3 kind of comes in, and then, maybe you'll go ride, and you're like, fuck, I still got it. I feel good,
Okay.
So yes, I've thought about it, but never sat down and actually had real conversation. Like, hey, let's,
You did show up for Monster Cup.
I did show up for Monster Cup. I did. Yep. I was getting ready for Australia.
Oh yeah. Top 10 did? Or just missed?
It
what
wasn't
happened?
very good.
Just a penalty or something?
Terrible.
Well, that's to your standards.
Didn't go real well. I don't think you qualified real well.
Okay.
I had high hopes. I really did.
Oh, really?
I did, yeah.
Did you have a fantasy team for a
No.
Monster Cup? I didn't know this was a thing.
I was always a fan of Brian. He was always very gracious to me. When he lived in Florida, he let me ride there. When there was no benefit to him to let me ride there. So I was always a fan, so I was cheering for him. But speaking of Australia, I remember a time around this, it's probably 2010, 2011, maybe 2011. These off-season races for these guys pay crazy money, right? They're always getting these big offers, and I remember being at his compound one day, and Ryan's putting in his motos, and I think maybe Cincerillo was around at the time. I know Weimer was around at the time, and RV was contemplating going to Australia, and I think it was like a 2 or 3 week deal, and RV was working with Alden Baker, right? And if you don't know, Alden hates these off-season races, right? It throws a wrench into the training. Because he wants continuity and day after day after day of the same, right? And you almost create this robotic feel about the week. Well, that ruins all that, right? But I think, and I'm going to share numbers. It's been a really long time, but I think it was like $180,000 to go on this trip. And I remember being like, I don't think I can do it. I don't think I'm like, dude, I will swim to Australia for that. I'll swim right
180.
now. Right. Yeah. Anything. Yep. I don't care what it takes, whatever. I will ride a camel that can swim across the ocean. So you get but I just it's so crazy. And I think about the perspective of I was racing. We're on the same starting line. I was not doing near as well, obviously. The decisions that he was making and turning down versus all these other privateers, it's just such a different life, man. It was so crazy to think about those differences, and but yeah, it's just a.
But a lot of that goes back to pressure. A lot of that goes back to that's all created by if it is a 0.5% off at Anaheim 1, you can't chance it. You can't do anything outside the box. Even if it would be fun.
We fly down there, and they're gonna pay you crazy money, like you said, and then all of a sudden you hurt your finger or your toe or
you can cut my finger off
or something.
Yep.
A knee or this, then it's already November or whenever we go down we go down there, there's no coming back for Anaheim 1. Your series is over, and your manufacturers pay you to race here.
Yep.
It's a burden for them to have to crate up motorcycles and parts and this, and then send mechanics, and they're never going to just send one guy. They got to send 3 guys. So it's a task to take on for sure.
And I think Alden's point too which is valid, is that hey, go win A1. You pretty much got that money back, right?
For sure.
Close.
For sure.
You go win A1, just stay the course, do what we're supposed to do. You're going to be there. If you don't win A1, you're going to win San Diego or whatever.
Yep.
And then that money's back, and it's over with. We don't have to go to Australia for 3 weeks. We don't have to ruin the plan. Everything stays intact. So I get that side too.
When Carmichael stepped away, he did a weird thing. He did a half season, and then he had a couple other boxes he was going to check. I think he was even going to do Paris or something. He didn't do that in the end, but he did donations and a lot of side races. Have you ever thought of that? I could put together a 5 or 6 race pick and choose schedule, or
if
you got to be all in or
If I'm
out?
going to put together 5 or 6 races, I might as well go race the whole series.
Oh, here we go. That's the problem.
Because to train for 5 or 6 and to be on that competitive level of Eli, Chase, and these guys that you will have to race against, if you're going to do 5 races, you might as well do the rest.
Gotcha. So you've been pretty clear the whole time.
I mean, the 125 stuff, 5 laps, count me in.
Let me ask you about that. So we're going to have a kid in a 2-stroke racing tomorrow on a YZ250.
Yeah, Carson Brown.
Name is Carson Brown. You ever raced him before?
I have.
Let's talk about that one. It was a battle.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, but he beat you?
And the pit bike race. It's always a battle in the pit bike
race. The pit bike race, too.
Yes.
Rocket Rob's pit bike race.
Yes.
This is the Pit Bike of Nations? Is that what we're talking about?
It's coming up, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Team USA.
That was gold.
I'm going to make it 5 in a row for me.
That's all you do is win donations. That's all you do for Team USA.
I'm just going to say, we haven't won it since I was there.
That's true. And the pit bike's still bringing it. Yeah. You got a fan out there. He's wearing full bald eagle, stars and stripes.
That's right.
All right, let's hear it for the last man to win on Team USA. He was in the last winning Team USA. Is that cool? Just wanted to give you that. Also tomorrow, Carson Brown will be racing on a 252 stroke. Let's hear it for that. Were you aware when you were racing Carson Brown how loved he is here? These people are insane about Carson Brown in this area.
Carson's got a big following.
He does.
He does. No, he does.
He does. I think now the Instagram account does not hurt. Do you follow that? Do you see the stuff he does?
I do see it. Yeah, it's anything and everything. If it's below a full-size motorcycle,
Yes.
He's on it.
It is insane, JT, to see, wait, these motorcycles could do this? They were never designed for this.
I mean, I think I just seen him the other day riding, it was like a 2009 KTM 85.
Sounds about right.
85. And ripping?
Like one of the first years they came out.
I was thinking
with
like a 1995 XR600.
well, they
they
didn't have the KTM 85, but yes.
It's incredible, his versatility. That's the best way I can put it. He will take any bike that was never designed to be put on a supercross track and just get after it.
Yeah.
I'm just scared he's going to like snap them in half, like literally just chopper the thing in half.
It's the first R&D on those jumps those bikes have ever dealt with. They were never tested that way. All right, Ryan Villopoto, thanks for hanging out with us. You're going to do TV tomorrow? You cool with this?
I am doing TV. What's
right.
like 9 to 6 o'clock in the truck?
That's the whole problem. Everybody comes in enthusiastic. I need you to stay there. I need you to stay there all day.
That's right.
Okay.
I'm fine.
I don't have a backup plan. JT's busy. He's out on the track.
The chair's comfortable. AC's definitely blasting.
It's a bit much, the AC, no doubt. All right, let's give a big send-off here to the 9-time national champion. He's your own Ryan Villopoto. Take a commercial break here on Staging Area. We'll be right back with the latest generation of homegrown stars. We'll be right back.
Keeping your pride and joy perfect is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Start with Slick Mist Speed Wax. Simply mist on and wipe off for a professional detailer shine. For your tires and trim, there's Lucas Slick Mist Tire and Trim Shine. Spray on and wipe off for better than new look. Then finish her with Lucas Slick Mist Interior Detailer. Just spray and wipe. Easy. Use Lucas Slick Mist Car Care products and she'll never look better. Fast, easy, and professional. Really, it's sort of like having an extra set of hands. Or 3.
Who's it going to be after 30 minutes and 2 laps? Heart rates are absolutely pinned right now.
It is on right now. Map TV live coverage. Lucas Oil Pro Motocross.
How can you not respect the grit, the heart, the effort? Chet Lawrence is the 2021 Lucas Oil Pro Motocross champion.
The Lucas Oil Pro Motocross Series. This year on Mad TV.
Welcome back to Staging Area here on the Monster Energy stage. We said Ryan Villopoto was going to go, but no. He's pumped. He's going to stay, and we're going to bring the latest generation of local talent up here. Welcome our next guest, Levi Kitchen. Yes. All right. Now, we give Ryan Villopoto the home track thing. Poolsbo, Washington. How far is that, dude? RV, how far is Poolsbo?
3.5 hours.
3.5 hours.
Yes.
Local guy. This guy's actually from Washougal, Washington. Where exactly do you live compared to here?
About right up on that hill.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Can you get here on a dirt bike, from house to track on a dirt bike?
Yeah.
You can just cruise down.
Yeah, there's a trail. I think there's a bunch of trees overgrown it now,
Yeah.
but that's how I used to get down here, actually.
You seriously used to do it?
Yeah.
Like, would you race a local race straight out of your house, like a race?
I never really raced, I wouldn't say, but I'd come down on practice days.
No way.
Yeah.
Ride from the house.
Yeah.
That's the dream.
Like when the National comes, like National, when the 30-second card goes up, they're like, hey, let's head down. Come on down.
Yeah, he just
30
changing in his garage. Yeah, putting his gear on in his garage. But the bummer news, you want to show off the hardware here? You can't race.
No. No. Practice crashed last week, ended up breaking it, so I'm out for a little bit.
The timing really couldn't be worse. How pumped these people are, and I'm sure you too, about getting to this one.
You know how many more T-shirts you could slang if you were racing?
It's
I
true.
know. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of people that actually ended up just not coming to the race because I wasn't.
Oh, you heard the ticket sales too. Okay, great.
Yeah.
But you're doing a lot. I feel like you're all over the place this weekend.
Yeah, I was stoked that the team let me come out and everything, and I've been running around, seeing some friends and family, and selling some merch here, so it's been good.
Okay. He's on the trophies.
Still on the trophies?
He's on the trophies.
You almost had a chance to grab your own face on that trophy, or is it a riding?
My question is how do you think you would have done here?
That's the $100 question. I don't know.
Didn't you say you don't ride this track very well? Did I read that or hear that somewhere? You're just like,
it's not your
this track doesn't work out that well for you or something?
I mean, it did growing up. I was pretty good, and then the few times that I came out here when I was training and all that stuff, I think I crashed pretty hard every time. So I don't know.
I just remember something like I was like, oh wow, okay, like you just didn't, and that's obviously what it was.
Yeah. No, it's I don't know. I was decent here, but it's definitely a whole different track, and it's slippery, and I like deep rutted stuff, so it's obviously not that.
Your story we've told many times where you were like pretty good, and all of a sudden you like exploded onto the scene in the B class. So when you were growing up, when you did come here, like will these fans be like, dude, I remember watching Levi Kitchen win motos by a minute or do crazy things, or were you not necessarily at that level the few times you did race here? Or were you dominating?
No, I came back here in 2020 after I won the Redes and raced Top Gun, and that was the first time that I'd say I even done well before I came home, I guess you could say.
No way.
Yeah, before that it wasn't really. I would go to Loretta's and get, 8th or whatever it was, but no, I'd say 2020 was about when.
But even here, local races here, 65, 85, whatever you might have done, it wasn't like you were dominating?
I would, but I had friends like Max Miller and Austin Black. I mean, they'd kick my butt a lot of the time. Yeah.
You were not the fastest local guy even when you were growing up necessarily.
On days, but Max and Austin were good.
Well,
okay.
And there's a long lineage of local riders who have excelled here at the Nationals. So you have a really high bar to reach once you are healthy, and I think this year would have been that year, but you go back to obviously Ryan Huffman, Jason McCormick, RV, Tommy Week. Like there's been a lot of riders who have shown up at this track specifically and done really well. So yeah, you will be the next, I'm sure.
Hopefully, yeah.
A little bit of pressure there, but yeah, that's what you're saying. You're not saying like if there's one track I'm going to win a race on, it's this one. There's other ones that are even almost better for your style.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say it'd be this one.
The one thing you can say, every rider says, if I can just get a start. But you can actually back those words up. You had 2 good starts this year and 2 awesome motos. Congrats, I think. Maybe you wanted more than 2 good starts.
Yeah, no.
But at least you backed your words up.
Luckily I backed it up.
Yes.
Like when I ripped that start at Colorado, that was probably my motivation. I was like, I don't want to look like an idiot right now. So.
Yeah. And then Southwick running up on Jet Lawrence. Talk about that.
Yeah, that was good. I don't know. It was one of those things where I closed in like maybe 3 times, and it was like demoralizing just not being able to get him. And I was just so close. And then, I don't know. He's good. He's good, riding really good right now. And, I just didn't quite have it in me.
He's really good at managing. I think it's almost like he senses when people are putting in their sprint, and he knows if he can withstand that for a few laps, they're going to blow up. And then if he can put in a couple really strong laps on the backside of that, then they break.
Yeah, and that was the weird part that I noticed was, and it kind of goes with anybody these days, but, once he kind of broke me a little bit, man, everybody just kind of stays where they're at. Like, I could see him every lap. He was looking at me, and I had Joe behind me, and there at the end, kind of all just stay the same.
Yeah, he's very wise beyond his years in that sense. Most guys, and we kind of made this point this week on one of our shows, that most guys, if they feel like they're the best guy, they have the points lead, they're going to try to win every moto by 45 seconds. He doesn't seem to really care about that, right? He gets his lead, he marks whoever's in second, and then as long as they're not catching him, he just stays there, which is, Weege and I have been watching this sport our entire life, and we've watched all of these guys come through, and that's super rare for somebody that young to be able to do that.
Well, even young or not, it's hard to be able to play that yo-yo. I'm good with this speed here. This is going to keep me, but now I got to give her I could only give one speed, and it was what I had. It's really hard to be able to do both.
Well, and when he moves up next year, guess what? Tomac's not going to break when you let him. You let him come up to you, and then you put in laps. Like he's just going to keep coming. There is no he's going to break if I push it to this pace. He's just going to keep going. Like the guy has some sort of never-ending battery that just keeps going, as Chase Sexton found last week. Because I think Sexton was like, okay, if I keep pushing him here, eventually he's going to succumb to this pressure. And Eli's like, no, I'm good.
Yeah. Do you guys even know each other? Did you grow up watching him? Have you talked to him when he was going through? Like, is there a connection at all? You're the local guys, but how well do you know RV, and did you watch him growing up?
Well, I definitely watched him growing up, obviously, but I didn't really know him until, what was that, 2018? 2018, he had a training camp, and I went up there and did that, and then, ever since then, we've always talked, and he's helped me out. Yeah.
Is that when he got good?
I don't know. You might have been 17 because you drove yourself there.
Yeah, on a 125.
Yeah.
Where was that at? Like Bremerton or something?
Up in Grays Harbor.
Okay, yeah.
Is that when he got good? After the training camp? Is that like that changes life completely?
Totally. That's what made it.
That's what I thought.
Yeah,
that's what I thought. Yep. Turned around.
No, he was good on a 125. He was good on an 80. Like I seen him ride actually it was a Husky Super Mini, and then he was good, but nothing to like write home about. Like it's not like I don't think he won Loretta's that year on our Super Mini.
Oh no, not even close.
Yeah, so like he was good, but not the guy.
Yeah.
And then he came back on a 125, and his technique was always really good. Like Levi's really good with he can ride a BMX bike or a scooter, and he rides and he's pretty versatile.
Oh, you're doing all right. You're on a pretty good setup right now.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
A pretty good team.
Well, and like that you say that, this to me, everybody that comes up, right, and this has been a pretty hot topic over the last decade, especially on Monster Yamaha Star Racing. You get your shot, and if you don't get it done on that team in the first year or two, good luck to you, because you just got a shot on what most consider the best bike and the best team. And you really have to perform, and it's really dicey. There's a lot of kids, even right now, that are in that stage where I don't know if they're going to make it or not, right? It's a really pivotal time. And I thought last year, Levi was kind of in that stage. And this year, to me, he solidified, okay, this is going to work, right? That ride at Thunder Valley, the ride at Southwick. Like, to me, that was like the breakout. Was like, oh, yeah, there it is. Like, yeah, we're good. We're good. You see everything you need to see, and you get to keep moving forward, where there's a lot of other kids, and they don't need to be named. You can just watch them. They're on factory teams, and it's not really going that well. But you're like, I don't know. It could go one of two ways here if they don't get it together soon.
Did that ever cross your mind, that pressure of like, I got to get a couple good motos in just to know that I can solidify, I deserve this ride, I can make this happen? Did you ever think about that when you first turned pro? No?
Not really, no.
You knew you had time to get it done?
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, obviously being older, but I knew I had a couple of years to do it,
Yeah.
So, no, this year so far, I definitely did better than I think I even expected, to be honest.
Okay, so you weren't thinking moto win even necessarily that early?
No.
Yeah.
No.
But your team's gnarly. Like, they're one of the few that will tell you straight up if they think you're doing as well as they expect.
Yeah.
But they've been pretty patient on your end.
Oh, yeah. And then obviously now, though, like, they know when I'm not, riding good, I guess you could say. And now they expect more out of me, which I totally understand. I expect more out of myself now. So.
Oh, yeah, because you just set that standard of, like, I can do this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. You got hurt right after Southwick, right?
Yeah, that Wednesday.
So did you feel, you had that great moto there, did you feel like, okay, I'm building on something? Like, do you think it would have kept getting better, Millville and here, even based on that?
Yeah, and not my riding, but in between, I can't even remember. What was the round before Southwick? Redbud. In between Redbud and Southwick, I went and did starts for, I don't even know, 5 hours by myself at the farm.
Yeah.
And
only just now. I've been telling him for a while.
Yeah.
Practice them. That's why he's a 9-time champ. Practice them. That's great advice.
So
because he's not very good at them normally.
Yeah, no.
It had been a struggle. Yeah.
Went and worked on them, and then Southwick first start was not good, but the second one was good.
Yep.
And so I think more so on that side of things. My riding I knew was good all year, but I was coming from so far back.
Yeah.
So I was happy with my starts, and I knew that if I kept starting up there, it'd be good.
So the good starts are probably going to come more consistently.
Yes.
You're hoping.
Yeah.
Shoot. What's the timetable on this wrist deal here? Do you know?
I don't really know. I mean, I got a plate in there, so I'm going to try my best to race Unadilla.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Wow,
I mean,
that's fast. That's quick.
Yeah, there's a good chance it'll hurt, and if it does hurt too bad, then we'll try Budds Creek, and if it hurts too bad for that, I want to, even if it's the last round, I want to race.
Okay. Yeah. Just leave on a I mean, you got to be pumped. One of your best motos, maybe your best moto, was the last moto you were in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
leave on a high.
You leave on a high.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. It's like, leave them remembering almost running down Jet Lawrence. Well, hey, I'm glad you came over here because I got to say we had a decent crowd with Villopoto.
Yeah.
But I think the crowd got bigger. Okay, RV?
I would hope.
I mean, next year, treat these people to a moto. The fishing pond or whatever that was all about. I see signs everywhere we go. We got one more guest that we're going to bring on, and now a test rider with Monster Energy. Yep, so I'm just trying to tie in the local thing with Brock Tickle. Star Racing has a huge legacy of wins and titles. I had not realized this until recently. They've won 5 straight West Region Supercross titles. They got Levi Kitchen in the wings. Were you the first winner for Star Racing? I believe you were.
Yes, their first ever Supercross win was in Seattle in 2010, and my first win. So obviously that was a really cool night for obviously Bobby and myself. So
and there's probably some fans out here who were there. It was Seattle. Probably some fans that watched it. Okay, you're not working for Star or riding over there anymore, but compare what Star was like then, trying to make it work to the juggernaut they are now.
You know, they've came a long way, and each year, even when Sipes was there in 11 and 12, I think, when I went to PC for those 2 years, he got some wins, I believe, those 2 years, and then slowly started making progress, got Jeremy Martin, and, you know, got a lot of wins in outdoors, and had Cooper Webb, and it just kind of went from there.
Yeah. It's funny, and I tell them this, we used to make fun of them for how hard they were on their riders. They had very high standards, and at that point it was like, you guys are not winning, so why are you so mad at your guys for not winning? But I have to say that philosophy in the long run, that gnarly philosophy has paid off.
Well, I would say Bobby's perspective was it's old school. And if you rolled over, he obviously didn't like that. You know, if you didn't give up and you kept digging, he liked that. And he saw that in you. And I think that's why him and I got along so well, is because I've always been the type to not give up. And I think that's why we always had a good relationship, and I was there for 4 years of my career.
Did you ever get it, though?
Absolutely.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Oh, the bike's going upstairs if you don't get your shit together.
Oh, that's the classic. Oh, I love it. Oh, that's real. That's not just talk.
No.
He has said that to his riders.
I've seen him say it to multiple. I mean, I was there for 4 years. I've experienced a lot.
Yeah, he told me he said it to Cooper Webb, and I'm like, there's no way he actually said that. He really does.
Yes.
Oh, gnarly. That kind of launched you and them kind of together. You went to Pro Circuit, you win championship, and then go to the 450 class. But I don't know, there's got to be a special place in your heart when you see how good that team is now.
Oh, absolutely. Even now, Bobby calls me and checks in every couple months. You know,
really? That's cool.
Yes. He was kind of like a father figure to me.
Yeah.
I was basically on my own at that point. Had to move to California in 2008 because he made the whole team basically move there.
Yeah.
So ended up being California basically on my own. He was a father figure to me ultimately.
Wow. And still cool now.
Yes.
Says a lot. He's had a lot of riders now. Because everybody tells me that, the amount of people that have ridden for him, and they're like, I still talk to Bobby. He's going to be on the phone a lot. Because he's been doing a team for 20 years now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about the current role. You are a test rider, trainer of some sort. Can we use that word?
Coach. I like saying coach, yeah.
Okay.
Because
for Anderson?
For Anderson, Jet Reynolds, I have a couple other guys that I help just with schedules and stuff. But yeah, the main the main focus for me, this year is basically the test riding job, Jason and Jet Reynolds, basically.
Okay. So how is that going?
It's been awesome to be on this side,
Yeah.
It's been a big learning year, I would say, for myself. And I think for myself, it's just a good transition for where I'm at in my career.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm retired, but it is not easy just to disappear and say you're done with this,
Yeah.
I want to be involved with this, and I'm in the right place. I have a good group of people around me. I'm having fun, and I'm learning a lot. So I'm having fun.
I see. It is ease that what am I going to do with my life transition.
Yes.
You're not and focus every day.
It's almost the same thing. I basically get to – it's basically like I'm racing, ultimately.
Yeah.
I'm doing all the training with the guys. I'm actually overdoing it, if I'm going to be honest.
Really?
Because I'm double duty a lot of times.
Okay.
So throughout the week, my week's pretty hectic. Like, for instance, last week I was at the track Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, flew out, and then was at the race Saturday, flew home Sunday, at the track on Monday this week, So my schedule is hectic, but I've learned how to manage it over the last, 6-8 months now. And the testing for myself is kind of slowed down, so that's helped me a little bit.
Yeah.
But things are going to speed up here pretty soon again.
Bro, that means you're putting in the work. But for most people, the reward is the race results.
Exactly.
You're only doing the work part. That's okay?
Well, so that's what's cool about this position. You learn to have that feeling of when success comes for the riders you're helping.
Okay.
When the team has success, for instance, obviously that's how I'm living through that right now.
Yep.
And it is hard. It is difficult to be in this position. Obviously, like I said, it's the best position I could be in, though.
Yeah.
So I'm stoked on that. The guys have been really welcoming since day one. We've put in a lot of work, and I'm really stoked overall on Jason's year, to be honest, and him making the change, having a really good, successful Supercross season. And, and even outdoors, it hasn't been spectacular, but he's been in every race, and I think that's important.
Well, he's been better.
This is his best outdoor
right?
season ever.
Yeah.
Yes. I think I thought it was really cool a few times when he mentioned you on the podium because a lot of work has gone into this too, right? And I also I think it's been a little bit of a revelation for a lot of people. I kind of knew already, but I think a lot of people had this misconception of Jason that he's a slacker and he doesn't really put in the work and do it. But you would know better than anybody, behind the scenes, he's working really hard. The work is not in question, and you're seeing that show up on Saturdays.
Absolutely. I mean, the off season, I was honestly blown away, if I'm going to tell you guys the truth.
You didn't even know. You
no,
hadn't worked with
I
him that
knew.
closely
I mean,
before?
I was with them at Alden's.
Yeah.
So I saw it, but firsthand, I witnessed multiple days where I was like, dude, you're not ready to be done yet, and he would still go out and do more.
And ride.
Yes.
Wow. So you as a coach trainer, he had done enough for what you were asking him to do.
He did more than what I think was actually needed, to be honest. So the attention to detail, how methodical he was, he showed up. When he showed up to ride, it was business. I was impressed. And he was like that at Alden's too. When he showed up, because he showed up at 2 weeks into our boot camp at 2017 for 18 year, and he did the same thing. Showed up and he was on his game.
I see.
So I saw when he came here last off season, I was like, yes, because obviously in 17 led to 18 championships. So for me, I saw a lot of the same things, and that was cool to be a part of. He's been awesome to work with, and I think we're kind of in that Supercross. He kind of did the same thing, where midway through the season he kind of struggled a bit, and I feel like we're kind of gaining momentum again heading into the tail end of outdoors. So I'm excited to see what the rest of the season looks like for him. I'm hoping we can get Jet Reynolds out there before the end of the year.
Dude, I'm sure.
Yes, it's been a struggle. I feel bad. I feel for the kid.
He's riding now, though, we saw, right?
Yep. He's been back on the bike now for 2 months. A lot of pain in the wrist, but we've been managing it the best we can.
Yep.
A lot of drill work to kind of control that, to be honest. Not just go pound motos at 100% intensity. Let's work on some basics and develop some skills that we can work on now while we can.
So I have a question. We pondered this a few times on our 17 shows we do every single week.
Yeah.
So we all know Jason Anderson, 2018 Supercross champ, right? Phenomenal year. Kind of out of nowhere. I certainly didn't expect it. I'm sure people that were involved knew it was probably coming. Like you said, he was doing all that work. This year, not champion, still wins 7 races. Which of the two was the better Jason Anderson? Even though did win a title. I'll give you my opinion first. I think this version was better. Maybe a little bit less polished, couple mistakes in there, but better rider. To me, this year he was phenomenal.
What do you think?
I'm gonna actually go with the title year. It's tough, but he was having to manage. So I don't know what more he could have done that year. He might have been able to win more, go faster. I feel like that year was, I won early. I got a big points lead. A couple other guys messed up, and now I have to go into management mode for the next 8 weeks. So I don't know if we saw – he was on the opposite side this time. Tomac had a huge points lead. He could let it fly. So I think he was capable of more in 18 than we even saw, even though he's champ, if that makes sense. So I'm going to give the edge to the title year. I got to figure having the points lead all year is a whole nother gnarly experience, and if you can survive that, I'm not taking anything away from you.
I would agree. I would agree with you on the riding part. I would say absolutely he was better this year. But I do agree with what you're saying, that starting the year as the red plate holder and holding that mentally, that's a tough task to take.
Yeah.
And he managed to do it, where this year he was the chaser, you know. So, but it was. I mean, Supercross was awesome for us as a group, and it was cool to be a part of. Looking forward to. I mean, I'm going to start Supercross here pretty soon again. So we're going to start testing here pretty soon, and then I'm actually going to Japan the week of Loretta's for 11 days. So a lot of cool things happening. Supercross is going to start soon. So, yeah, we got a lot of things moving over here for myself, but looking forward to it.
I got two things for you. Have you had that itch? You're putting all this work. You're riding a ton. I'm sure you're still fast. You're in shape. Are you getting like, come on, guys, let me ride? Or are you cool with that? Or are you getting that itch? Or are you actually happy to not have that pressure anymore?
Well, to be honest, I do want to race.
Yeah?
There are times that I do want to race,
so you
obviously.
don't want to be retired.
I thought before they signed Joey, I honestly thought they were going to let you ride the bike. I really did.
Well, that was talked about, and, I mean, the circumstances are they hired me to be a test rider, and if I went to racing, that takes away from the testing, kind of. And then also I'm helping Jason, which is under the Cowie, and then I'm helping Jet underneath Cowie.
Yeah.
So it would cause some disruption. Obviously, if it was personally just up to me and I could just do whatever I want, you know, I maybe would have tried to race a couple races.
Yeah.
Just
so the
to,
feeling
just
of
to
racing,
get out there.
You want that still. You like that.
I do enjoy it. So I haven't 100% confirmed, but I am going to go do vet designations.
Cool.
So that'll be my next race. So, I mean, that'll kind of answer my questions, I guess.
Is that Farley Castle?
Yes. Okay.
You can ever ride in like a KX 500 or something crazy?
Yeah, I got a picture actually of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So hopefully that's a good trip. Like I said, the next couple months I would say are super busy, so I'm just looking forward to it. And yeah, that's no joke being on this side, traveling, doing what I'm doing. It's worse than racing, to be honest. My plate's full, but I'm enjoying it.
How did this come about? That's my last thing for you. Was it Cowie? Was it Jason? Was it Jet? Like, how did this deal come together for you?
So about midway through Supercross in 2021, when I was on Moto Concepts, Oscar contacted me, and we kind of just talked very, very slim. And at the end, towards the end of the season, things kind of, okay, you can ride the bike 2 weeks after Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
And we'll just feel it out, see how it goes. And it went well. Had a meeting with Dan around the same time, and then it took a little bit of time to get things 100% finalized. But, yeah, we tested a little bit for Adam for the outdoor season, but obviously he had an injury that put him out, so we just started Supercross testing the first week of August. So we did 2 months of Supercross testing, and then basically my deal was started, or my contract finally got sorted around that time.
So that was a Cowie thing. Where does Anderson and even Jet Reynolds enter the picture as far as a coach-trainer?
So Jet Reynolds came to the table around, it was a year ago. It's been just about a year right now.
Yep.
So I started with him 6 weeks before Loretta's, so just over a year now. And it's been cool to work with somebody of that age with that much drive. Obviously, he's had a lot of injuries over the last couple of years, but to see the change from a year ago to now is really cool from my side. You know, it really does. It actually means a lot to me because it's cool to see. It's almost like I'm his big brother, and it's been awesome. So that started, and we continued. That was just me personally.
Yep,
that
wasn't
just
a Cowie deal.
Yes,
yeah.
And then when Jason signed with the team, I believe him and the team had a meeting about obviously who he wanted to work with, and I know my name was on the list, and obviously it just worked perfectly.
Yeah.
You know, I'm helped develop the bike. I'm coaching other guys. I'm kind of in that position, so it just worked out perfectly. So that's how that came to the table. So yeah, it's been cool. A lot of new relationships for me, and that's now that I'm on this side, it's really cool to to gain more relationships and grow in that category as well. Because when you're racing, you really do have blinders on.
Yeah,
and
you're not talking to the Cowie guys if you're not racing for them.
Well, the one thing that's tough, I think, is when you're in this position now for me is you can be so selfish when you're racing.
Yeah.
You can really just shut everything off and just say, I don't feel like thinking about that. I don't feel like doing that. But in this position, I have to think about everything.
Yep.
And there's a lot of moving parts here. So
yeah.
I have to take time for myself to take care of that, So
doesn't sound like you are.
Yes. So I figured it out. I got it figured out. But it's been cool to be on this side because I appreciate the work of the guys within the paddock a lot more.
Yep.
And I always have, but it's a different level once you sit back on this side.
Well, I think you nailed it there. Is you went from being selfish to selfless, right? That's the huge distinction there. Is where everything is about, okay, how do I make sure that I'm the best I can be on Saturdays? To how can I make sure that these two guys are the best they can be on Saturdays? Like it's same concept, just kind of projecting that on somebody else now.
Exactly.
It's quite a success story. I mean, look, Anderson's improvement this year. We've talked so much about Tomac because he won the title, but Jason has improved just as much, if not more. And that's your first year doing it. First year really where you're the guy with the bike as well.
Yep.
Got to have some real pride in how it's
gone.
No,
I mean, honestly, that first win at Oakland that he had, honestly felt like I won the race.
So
like
that's
the feeling I had was the same feeling I have. I mean, not identical, but it was it was within the same ballpark.
Right? Yep.
Exactly. And even seeing things in Jet, like this week, we made a lot of progress. He had a really good week, and I feel that. And it's awesome. Yeah. So that's where I'm getting that from. So it's really cool to be part of. Like I said, I'm enjoying it. It has been a change of pace, but it's been really good for myself, I think, too, as well.
Well, it's good to have guys like you around. You can easily go into a dark place when you're like, what do I do?
Yes.
And you skipped all that. You kept busy. Yep.
I mean, I kind of, I went from basically racing, at Salt Lake City, and 2 weeks later I was on a factory Cowie testing.
I'm crazy, dude.
That's pretty much perfect.
Yes.
You can't get much better than that. And that's one thing I will say is I'm thankful for everybody who's ever, supported me and gotten me to this point. It's been awesome, and I'm just stoked to be here and still be in this position.
All right, that's awesome. That's our show. Thanks for stopping by, Brock Tickle.
Thank you.
Good luck with the boys tomorrow over at Monster Kawasaki. Thanks to everyone for watching Staging Area. Enjoy the races tomorrow, everybody.